Hello, my name is Keshwani. That's Keshwani, Keshwani. We are here because we want to prepare for SAT. We have been solving SAT grammar questions out of this book here, the official SAT study guide. If you do not own this book already, purchase one immediately. You're going to need it. The problems that we are about to solve are the ones that you will find on page number 895. Please turn to it. Page number 895. And today is our lesson number 44. These are series of 18 questions. First 6 are easy in the series. It starts with number 12 and the series starts with number 12 and ends at number 29. The first approximately 6 are easy, the middle 6 are medium, the last 6 are hard. Or loosely speaking, the ones that we did yesterday on the previous page, those were all easy ones. The ones that we are about to do on this page, on page number 895, they are all medium. And the ones that you see on page number 896, the few that you see on page 896, those are hard ones. We'll do those tomorrow. Let's get going. So as I said, these are medium questions. Number 1. Although naturalists have identified 600 different forms of snails, although they have identified 600 different forms of snail, there is actually no more than 2 that matter. How about that? Okay, I left out the boring bits. The sentence goes on to say that although they have identified more than 600 different forms, there is actually no more than 2 true species within this genus, I believe. That's how it's pronounced. As far as we are concerned, all it says is that although they have identified 600 different forms of snail, there no more than 2. See, we're talking about 2, no more than 2. Because there are 2, this 2 has to agree, the verb has to agree with the fact that we're talking about 2 of them. There are, in reality, no more than 2 that matter, or no more than 2 that are interesting. There are, not there is. That's all. Number 19. So the answer here is B. The answer is B. Number 19. The Department of Transportation has introduced pictorial traffic signs. The Department of Transportation has introduced DOT, they call it. Department of Transportation has introduced pictorial traffic signs. Pictorial traffic signs, signs that bear pictures as opposed to writings, traffic signs, because drivers can react to this more quickly. That's it. That's all we are interested in. Then to the verbal ones. We're not interested in that part. That's the boring bit. More quickly is underlined as part C. The Department of Transportation has introduced, that's your A, pictorial traffic signs because drivers can react to this more quickly. What's the problem here? What is the problem here? This that we see here, this this word that we see here, this that we see here, refers to what? We have to ask ourselves, what does it refer to? It refers to what was introduced before, which are pictorial traffic signs with the S, plural. The DOT has introduced pictorial traffic signs with S because what? Because drivers can react, I should say to. Drivers can react to, not this, we're talking about signs, more than one sign, because drivers can react to, maybe this was the two part. Drivers can react to, not this, but these. Drivers can react to these more quickly. Because we're talking about signs, more than one signs. They have introduced these signs because DOT feels that people are able to react to these pictures. These pictures, you see, people are able to react to these pictures more quickly as opposed to the writings. That's it. So the answer here is B. The answer is B. Next one. Number 20. She claims that the representational actor is having to imitate a character's behavior. Whereas the presentational actor attempts to reveal human behavior through self-understanding. We're not interested in that mumbo jumbo. As it is, the sentence is weird enough. I have no idea what the sentence actually says, but we're not interested in the philosophical meaning of it. We're just interested in making sure that it is grammatically correct. Let's see what it says. She claims that the representational actor is having to imitate a character's behavior, whereas the whatever the PA stood for, whereas the presentational actor attempts to reveal human behavior. What can we do here? She claims that the representational actors not is having to imitate. She claims that this has to imitate behavior, whereas the other one attempts to reveal human behavior. This first one simply imitates the behavior, whereas the other one actually reveals human behavior. As I said, I have no idea what the sentence actually means. We're not going to get into the philosophy of it. We just want to correct the grammar. She claims the representational actor has to imitate the character's behavior, whereas the presentational actor attempts to reveal human behavior. That's all. Not is having to, but has to. The answer is A. Number 21. Number 21, the very last one in the first column. Don't ask me why I have to point out the bloody obvious, but that's what I do. Many nations and the UN itself has issued stems. That's it. That's all we are interested in. The rest of the stuff that you see there is the boring bits. We are not interested in that. It goes on to say that many nations and the UN itself has issued stems that commemorate the 50th anniversary of the signing of the UN Charter. to which we'll say good for them. We're not interested in that part. We are only interested in the interesting bits, which is the bit that you see on the blackboard. You see the problem? Many nations and the UN itself. Well, the subject of the sentence here, what is the subject of this sentence? Subject of this sentence is right here. Subject of this sentence is nations and the UN. Therefore, since the subject of the sentence is plural, which is not has, these people have, not has, they have issued stamps. That's it. That's all. We're done. The answer is B. Now that answer choice B would not have changed. Answer is not B. The subject of the sentence is not B. I want you to understand. The subject of the sentence, the subject of the sentence is not plural because we have the nations and the UN. That's not the point here. Even if you were to take out the UN part, it will still require have. Many nations have. Many nations is plural. So even if you take out the UN, the subject will still remain plural because now we're talking about many nations have issued stamps to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the signing of the UN Charter. I believe that's what it said. There you go. Number 22. Number 22. The Tribal Council's program. The Tribal Council's program. The program familiarized young people with history. Taught them tribal tradition. Taught them tribal traditions. And they had the opportunity, to learn skills used by ancient artists. We're not interested in that part. What is the problem with this sentence? The problem with this sentence is that we are making a list. And when we are making a list, the list has to be consistent. I like to sing and to dance and I go jogging. It doesn't work that way. I like to sing, to dance and like to go jogging. No, I like to sing, to dance and to jog. It is called what is known as parallel construction. Everything has to be consistent. Here we are making a list of 3 items as a matter of fact. The program familiarized young people with history that taught them tradition. That's the first part. With history that taught them tradition. That's the first part. What the hell did I just do? Oh, sorry. Let's start again. It has 3 parts to it. It taught them history. So rather, the program, we're making a list of 3 things. The program familiarized young people with history. That's the first part. It familiarized young people with history. Taught them traditions. It's a list. It has to be consistent. Familiarize them, you see, familiarize them, taught them, and they had the opportunity to learn skill, and afforded them, and not they had the opportunity, and where can I put it? And afforded them the opportunity, which simply means provided them or gave them the opportunity to learn skills. It did three things. It familiarized them with history. The program familiarized them with history. It taught them traditions and gave them the opportunity to learn skill, or as I said, afforded them the opportunity to learn skill. Not and they had the. And it has to be some verb. These are all verbs. It familiarized them, it taught them, it provided them. It has to be consistent. It's called parallel constructions. That's what's wrong with it. And that will be answer choice, this part here. And that will be answer choice C. The answer here is C. Cross out these three words. They had. Cross out these two words rather. Cross out these two words. They had and replace them with, and put in the verb there, and provided them the opportunity, gave them the opportunity, afforded them the opportunity to learn skills. We need a verb here. Afforded, provided, or gave. To afford somebody something is to allow them something, to give them the opportunity to do something. What number was that? That was number 22. Number 23. Observation of diverse species. Observation of diverse species show that the most successful in the struggle for survival, I'm going to leave that out, the most successful are those which are most adaptable to the changes in their world, most adaptable to, I'm just going to say, to the environment around them, or as they call it, changes, or as they say, the changes in their world. Let's see what we can do with this sentence. Observation of diverse species show that the most successful in the struggle for survival, I left that out because it's the boring bits. The most successful are those which are most adaptable to the environment. What can we do with this sentence? Of course, we're getting towards the very end of it, which is why they tend to get a little bit more complicated. They get to be a little bit more lengthy, and you just have to slow down and take your time. And the very first thing we do is to go through this list here. Or rather, what I meant to say is that very first thing we always do in every sentence is to ask ourselves, what is the subject of this sentence? And does this subject agree with the form of the verb that is given to us? The form of the verb has to agree with the subject. If the subject is plural, the form of the verb has to be plural. And we can't go around saying, boys sings. Boys sing. You understand? You can't go around saying girls dances. Girls dance, and so on and so forth. What is the subject of this sentence? Subject of this sentence is observation. As you can see, there is no S here. It's just observation. It's singular. Observation is singular. We can take out the boring bits. This is the boring bit of diverse species. We are not interested in that part. And now we ask ourselves, what verb follows that subject? It says, observation, show. Observation, we just said, is singular. Observation shows. Observation shows. And that's it. The verb has to be in the form that agrees with the singularity of the subject. Do you understand? Or rather, it has to agree with the fact that the subject is singular. Do you understand? The singularity has a different meaning. That's it, we're done. The observation shows that the most successful are those which are most adaptable to the environment. And here's what I want you to do. This one is a tricky one. I want you to go to your grammar teacher in your school and ask your teacher if I'm right or wrong in what I'm about to say. As far as I'm concerned, in the back of my mind, I feel that there is one more mistake in this sentence. And of course, in the given sentence, you're told that there is only one mistake, so we pick the one that is more glaring, not most glaring, because there are two I'm talking about. And the one that was more glaring was the fact that the subject did not agree with the form of the verb. But I think because we are talking about shows that the most successful are those, we're talking about animals, I believe, we're talking about some living things, we're talking about animated objects. Let me read the one more time. Observation of the diverse, there you go, observation of the diverse animal species. We're talking about animals, we're talking about living things, we're talking about what is known as animated object. We talked about it just yesterday. In yesterday's video, if you look at problem number, if you watch yesterday's video, if you turn the page, in the previous page, number 15, when we did number 15, we talked about animated object and inanimated objects. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, watch yesterday's videos and you will see there, we learned that when we are referring to things that have lives, they are to be referred by who, not which. The animals who are hungry should be fed. We don't say animals which are hungry. I don't think so. It doesn't sound right to me. But then again, I might be wrong. Who knows? Talk to your grammar teachers. Do you understand? Because the very first day when we started there, especially the vocabulary videos when we started, the very first vocabulary videos that we did together, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, in addition to the grammar video that you're watching right now, there are also videos at my channels that help you improve your vocabulary. And in the very first video, I explained to you that despite all the things that we do together, at the end of the day, it does not alter the fact that I am a non-native speaker of the language. You understand? And therefore, once in a while, I am going to make what are technically known as boo-boos. Do you understand? So ask your teacher if I'm right or wrong in this thing, but I feel it should be who. Observation shows that the most successful are those who are the most adaptable to their environment. Who are most adaptable to their environment. Number 24, the penultimate one, the second to the last one. We go through this thing every single time. The word that I just used was penultimate, which is a very fancy way of saying second to the last. Number 24. Far away from having been a die-hard conservative, Hoover should be with a V, not a W. Hoover was, some scholar contend, some scholars now contend, the leading progressive of his time or of his day, whatever you like. Far away from having been a die-hard conservative, Hoover was, some scholars now contend, the leading progressive of his day. Now the stuff that you see between the two commas, as I always remind you, it is there only to fill up space, it is there only to make the sentence longer, to distract you, to annoy you. You can ignore it very easily as long as there is nothing there are no errors in that portion itself. And the part that I'm talking about here between the two commas is right here. Some scholars now contend. Some scholars now contend. There's nothing wrong with this part. Some scholars now argue. Some scholars now dispute. That's what they're trying to say here. That's what contend means, to argue or to dispute or to not agree with. We don't need that part. That was the boring bits. So now the sentence reads, far away from being a die-hard conservative, Hoover was the leading progressive of his day. What is wrong with this sentence? Hoover, I believe, was some guy from the American history. I do not know. Probably one of the presidents. Who knows? What is wrong with this sentence is what you will find at the very end of the list here. As I always remind you, as we get into harder and harder problems, more and more difficult problems, we tend to go down the list here. The concept they begin to test go a little bit more higher up in the difficulty and in understanding. And one of the most difficult things for a non-native speaker to master, as I always remind you, are what are known as idioms. Idioms are very peculiar to each language. They do not follow it. They do not have any rhythm or rhyme to them. You just have to know them, and that's all. The idiom that they're testing here is far from being, not far away. Far from being, or far from having been. You would say, far from being a stingy guy, my uncle is probably one of the most generous person I have ever known. You would not say far away from. You would say, far from being dishonest, he's one of the most honest guy I know. Far from being lazy, he actually works quite hard every day. Here you would say, far from having been a die-hard conservative, Hoover was, now that we've taken out the middle part, we don't need the comma here, Hoover was the leading progressive of his day. He was, in other words, what he says here, when one employs this idiom, far from being, what you're saying here is that he was anything but a die-hard conservative. He was in fact one of the most leading progressive of his day. He was anything but a conservative. That's what we are trying to say here. Do you understand? That's it. That was the answer. We just have to get rid of the word away, and it's an idiom. It's an idiom here. You say far from being the most expensive shirt. The one I'm wearing actually is the one of the cheapest one that I have. Do you understand? Oh, I erased the word penultimate, which, as I said, simply means second to the last, or second last. And we learned this word. I'm going to give you the day number in case you're curious to learn it properly. Day number 11. Just type in SAT vocabulary words, day 11, and it will pop right up. The very last one. Let's finish it up. It's taking too long. For the most part, let me start again. For the past 100 years or more, for the past 100 years or more, Yellowstone National Park was a kind of social laboratory. That's it. That's the end of the sentence as far as we're concerned. It goes on to say it was a kind of a social laboratory in which Northern Americans have been exploring the meanings of the national park concept, to which you will say good for them. We are not interested in that boring bit. We are interested only in the juicy parts. The juicy bits is right here, what you see in the blackboard here. It says for the past 100 years or more, Yellowstone National Park. Now we're describing something that has been going on over a period of time. It is not something that has ended in the past. It's been going on. Something that has been going on, we do not describe that with the verb was. We have to say for the past 100 years or more, Yellowstone National Park, not was, but has been a kind of social laboratory in which North Americans have been exploring the meaning of the national park concept. Leave out all of this thing. Don't waste your time reading the boring bits, as I said in the exam. Just concentrate on where the grammar is wrong, and that's all you're interested in. Do you understand? Don't try to analyze it. Don't try to philosophize. Don't get too deep into it. Just look for the grammatical error, and that's it. That's it. That's how the sentence reads now. It says the sentence now reads: for the past 100 years or more, Yellowstone National Park has been, not was, has been a kind of social laboratory. That's it. We're done. Tomorrow we'll do the few that are left there on the following page. That's going to go very quickly. Those are going to go very quickly. There's only 4 of them, and those are the hard ones. We'll do those tomorrow, and that'll be the end of this exam. And then day after tomorrow we'll begin our very last exam in the book. The book that I showed you in the beginning has 10 exams, and these questions that we've been doing here are from exam number 9, the penultimate exam. And then day after tomorrow we'll begin exam number 10, which will take 5 more days to finish that exam. And on the 50th day, on the 50th video, we will have done all the questions, all the grammar questions that I had planned out, that I had wished to do when I started the project. Do you understand? We will have done. It's called future perfect. Future perfect. We will have done. By the time we get to day 50th, we will have done all the work that we had planned to do. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye now.